is up, hotties? Welcome back to another episode of Stay Hot. I'm Blaiden Kirk, joined as always by my two favorite co-hosts of all time, Matthew Sponhour and Theo Ash. And today is, I think, our final NFL draft prospect breakdown episode as we take a look at the offensive linemen in this class. We're doing offensive linemen as a collective, not breaking it up into tackle and guard, because it seems like there's a lot of positionless players in this year's class across the offensive line. And I had a lot of trouble ranking them. It just feels like a lot of it is very scheme based. A lot of it is it's kind of tough to decipher like who's better. It's just kind of like situational, I feel like, for a lot of these guys. But before we get into it, Matt, Theo, how are you doing on this glorious April 16th, the day after tax day, Wednesday evening?
I'm doing pretty good. Before the episode, we were talking about Cam Ward and his clip farming on Fortnite, where someone would ask him, like, what are your top 5 coaches? And he would say the top 5 coaches that could reasonably draft a quarterback in the draft, or they'd be like top 5 running backs. He's like, probably got to go Tony Pollard. So that honestly moves him. I mean, he was already quarterback 1 on my board, but that moves him up my
He's
board.
media trained as humanly possible.
Well, I don't know if I would call that media training.
I would call it hints.
I call it just being a funny guy. I'd call it being a little bit of a comedian.
I would call it
knowing that make the locker room laugh.
I would call it knowing that you're going to the Titans. So you say Treylon Burks is a top 4 receiver in the league.
It's like, who's the best offensive lineman in football right now? Oh, probably Peter Skoronski.
That's what he was doing. I mean, it was all Titans players, Pollard and Spears. He named both of them in his top 4 running back rankings. Dude. Or maybe he's trying to convince them to take him number 1 overall. Maybe it's, I'm bought into the team. Look at me, name your players. Maybe he doesn't know. Or maybe he knows that he is a Titan.
Yeah.
And he's just naming Titans players. That one seems more likely to me. I mean, if I was the Titans and I knew Cam Ward was going to be the pick, I'd be like, you're the pick. Here's the playbook on the down low. Maybe you can just give him the playbook. I don't know if that's legal or not.
Sure,
but he probably knows if he's
there's nothing stopping you from just giving any, like, they could give us the playbook, you know? It wouldn't be smart, but they could do it.
It wouldn't be smart.
What are we going to do with the Titans playbook?
I would try to sell it, probably.
Sell it.
Sure. I would. Is
Call
that not
Houston up.
Yeah, absolutely. I would be like, I have the Titans playbook. They gave it to me because they trusted me. They shouldn't have. 10 grand. And if you were an NFL team, you would do that in a heartbeat.
You're only selling it for 10 grand?
I'm giving the Texans a good deal.
The Texans don't need the playbook to beat.
I'm trying to build a relationship with whoever I sell it to, you see. This is just one sale of many. It's a loss leader type deal.
The Jaguars might shell over some money to beat the Titans.
Oh, yeah, man.
The Colts.
Dude, I was...
the Texans are fine.
I was looking at the Jags recently because I was doing a mock draft and I've seen everyone else wants them to take Mason Graham, but in this mock draft, Mason Graham was not there. And I'm like, well, what's the next best thing they could need? And I started looking at like their numbers and stuff, and I'm like, oh my God, they had the worst pass defense in football by like an insane margin. Like they were dead last in pass rush win rate. They were dead last in total passing yards allowed. They were dead last in EPA per play against the pass. I'm like, dude, this team, it's like, get them a corner, get them an edge. Like they need something to live on the back end there for their defense. So I ended up taking Will Johnson there at 5, but that was like,
I think Will Johnson will be good, but I'm not quite bought into him as a super crazy high pick. I think he's got some limitations. Like he's one of those dudes where it's like I can't quite be like, this is a dude I'm low on, because I think within his role he's great. Mm-hmm. And I think at the end of the day, like there's just so many dudes who end up being busts. Like they're just not good, you know, where I don't feel that way with Will Johnson. So where it's like, you know, he'll probably end up being a dude who gets a second contract, and that alone makes you, you know, good. But at 5, it would be pretty steep. Although maybe that's true for.
I mean, the way the board fell was Cam Ward, Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter, Mason Graham were the first 4 picks. And so after that, I'm like, well, those are the 3 best defensive players. You could go Genty. You could go
Jalen Walker.
Jalen Walker. I would
He's
take
a Panther.
Jalen Walker, top 5, dude.
They've kind of tipped.
I'd rather have him than Will Johnson, but
we're gonna have to agree to disagree on that one, man.
They could take one of the offensive linemen that will be taken.
I thought about like Campbell, and we'll talk about him. And Will Campbell is the consensus number 1 offensive lineman on most people's boards. However, I have seen that kind of shift recently, and I do wonder if that's just a product of there's more time between football not being played and the draft. Things change. How much of that do you think is his arms being short, and how much of that do you think is other things?
I think a lot of it has to do with his arms being short. Yeah. The questions on Campbell, I think a lot of it does, because if he's getting outreached to tackle and you move him to guard, he's got his problems there too with the projection, because he's tall and he plays tall. And when I think about a guard, I think about someone real low to the ground, someone who just kind of bangs around, someone who can really get under you and lift you and move bodies in the run game. And Campbell, he is an island tackle. I mean, he was playing like he was Lane Johnson at LSU, just no help, getting out there every play, one-on-one, like in space. There just wasn't much about his usage that made me think like, oh, this is a future guard. So he's got to be a top-notch tackle, and the arm length being as short as it is, I understand why it is an issue. And if he had great reach, he'd be in number 1 overall picks talk. But he doesn't, so he's not, I think. And it does show up, I think, the short arms at times.
Yeah, I saw Sam Monson tweet out. He was like, yeah, I haven't seen a top tackle get beat the way that I've seen Campbell get beat. Like he's not Joe Alt in that sense.
Yeah, he's not, but he doesn't get beat too often. And like I said, he's on an island kind of constantly. And I do think that should be that's worth talking about with him, where it's not this play action heavy, like tons of chip help situation for him where, a lot of the reps, it's not quite a one-on-one look at him. Like with him, it's over and over again, like tons of space against the top edge rushers in the SEC. So I agree with Monson's take there where like, yeah, he does get beat more than I see, other top end tackles get beat in the past or even in this class. But I legitimately think the difficulty of his assignments are higher than other players in this class. If Lane Johnson mentioned island rate, he had it on his locker when he was talking about himself versus Sewell and who should be first team All-Pro. And I think that's a valid point, right? Guards never slide Lane's way. They do slide Sewell's way sometimes, and that's a product of the Lions running scheme, honestly, and how much play action they run, partly. And with Campbell, it's the same way, where if you want, I think he should get a shot at tackle first because of how LSU used him and how proven he is out there.
Right. I mean, you're not going to draft a guy if we're talking about, maybe it starts at 5 with the Jaguars, or the Patriots could go tackle too. You're not going to draft a guy that high as a guard unless they are like a legendarily good prospect. I mean, I can't even think of a guard who's been picked that high. So I think just from the standpoint of, what type of value you expect to get from a pick that is that great. Absolutely, you're going to try Campbell at tackle. And it's like if you pick someone that high, you're not going to try him at the position they played at college at all. I agree that his arm length is an issue. I read a report that was like a lot of NFL teams like don't really care. And I can see how you'd get to that, but there is a little bit of an over correction, I think, that can come from the arm length stuff where people treat it like the quarterback hand size thing, where it's just like, it's just a silly measurement or whatever. Or it's really easy to be the guy who's like, it doesn't really matter. Like, just watch the tape. And a lot of times, like, I want to be that guy for sure. But like it makes a difference. I mean, you can see how it makes a difference. And in the NFL level, it's just going to be so much more common to see guys who have, peak athletic traits like arms that are long enough to get in your frame if you're not very quick. If you're not very quick, getting your hands up. Now, luckily for Will Campbell, the reason why he survived in the SEC for a long time is I think he is very good with his hands, and he is a very smart and patient player. Whereas with a lot of tackles, at the college level, it's kind of strike whenever you can. With Campbell, I feel like he's always well-timed and thinking it out, and he's not just leaning and headbutting and just trying to stay in front of them, and then whatever happens in the interaction is whatever happens, which can work for some guys, of course, at that level. He's not like that, and there's a reason why he's highly regarded. But multiple things can be true. He does a lot well to overcome it, and it could be an issue.
Yeah, against certain matchups, especially like in the Shamar Stewart matchup was kind of frustrating to watch for both players because I felt like neither was winning. I was like, Shamar outreached Campbell here and pushed him back, but he couldn't finish the play here, so nothing ended up happening. Or he pushed Campbell back, but Campbell has such ridiculous grip strength that he's able to hold on for 1 extra second. And even though it was ugly, Campbell still won, kind of. So I was like, man, I wish one of these guys really dominated so I could be sure, but that's not really what was happening. I thought it was kind of a back and forth affair, and there was a lot of draws where neither guy was really in the ideal position. And I was just like, man, I wish that was more decisive, but he is so good with his punch usually. I mean, he is so patient with it, and he knows that he's going to get outreached, and he kind of lets it happen. And then right before the defender's about to hit him in his chest, he raises his hands, and there's a moment where the reach isn't quite perfect. There's a little bit of bend in the guy's arm, and that's all it takes for Campbell to latch on. And he always gets his hands in the upper shoulder and lower pec of the guy, just like you're supposed to. And then he can really anchor down. And when he's in that clench, his upper body is so strong, he can torque guys around and really finish plays and throw them on the ground. And it's really fun to watch. It was a ball watching his tape because I thought he had a lot of reps where he actually was able to bring the guy in close and then kind of just maul him from there.
Maybe that's the advantage of
really
having short arms, is you maybe get a little bit more power. You don't have to go as far. But make no mistake, right? It is a downgrade and in multiple ways to move him to guard. And that to me is the main reason why he needs to get a shot at tackle. If you look at the highest paid offensive linemen, right? And you looked at the top 20, how many of them are tackles? 18.
Right. Yeah, you're cutting your losses if he moves to guard. I mean, right. It's not a total failure if you pick him in the top 10 and he moves to guard and he turns into a solid guard. In fact, it could be a good thing if he ends up being an
from
elite
his
guard.
Perspective,
but it also,
it's that could be the difference in him making $15 million a year and almost $30 million a year. It could be a significant difference.
Right, and that's why teams also would rather have him out at tackle. Mm-hmm. So I think he's a good player, though. I'm feeling pretty decent that just as a guy who I feel like has gotten a lot better over his time at LSU and seems very high IQ and has improved a lot. I don't know. I have good faith that he's going to be able to work through what is a disadvantage with his arm length, but it stops him from being an easy, just there's no concerns type of guy.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. But when we're talking about a 21-year-old, 3-year starter with 2,500 offensive snaps played, I don't know if you get the better combination of youth, experience, growth than Will Campbell here.
Yeah, I think that moving him down the draft board too far, specifically moving Mbow over him,
it doesn't make it. I see a lot of Mbow.
I see a lot of that too, and it just doesn't make sense to me because Membou, he moved up after his ridiculous combine, and for good reason. His top speed was ridiculous, 40 time. Like, he moves super well. He's a crazy athlete. But you can't say, well, he won the combine and now he's got to rise, because I feel like Will Campbell also won the combine. Like, he ran a great time, 10-yard split, vertical, broad, like all of it was good. And he's bigger than Membou is. So I just don't understand why it's seemingly after the combine, Membou moved up over Campbell for being athletic, when Campbell is also a crazy athlete, and his redirection power and the quickness that he has in his feet is very noticeably great on tape, I think.
Oh, so, like, play strength, grip strength is totally different between Campbell and Mbow.
And that is 100%.
Is it Mbow or Membou?
I think it's Membou with a ooh sound, but the O has been throwing me off.
Mbow,
with a U.
That's on me then. And, well, I mean, how much longer are Membou's arms then? I mean, at 33 and a half at the combine, I don't know. Did Campbell, he measured at like 32 and 3/4? I mean, maybe it comes down to just like teams have a cutoff point, and that's what's making the difference here. But I don't disagree with you. I don't dislike him at all. And like, him being a great athlete shows up on tape. But I definitely think, I don't know how much I necessarily agree with the take I'm going to give, but how I kind of feel about it is like, you know how if you have a center in the NBA and he can't do a lot of the big man stuff well, like he can't rebound well and he can't like defend the interior well, then him being like a 3-point specialist, like him being able to do like maybe more like guard or wing skilled stuff, it's not that it matters less. It's just that like, it's not really some like crazy combination. You don't really like, you're not really a unicorn if you're a tall guy who just plays like he's 5 inches shorter.
Yeah.
With Membou, I kind of feel the same way in the sense that like, he's really big and he moves really well, but his power doesn't match like what he weighs in at. And because of that, it's like, well, I could have a similarly strong player or a similarly strong player who weighs 310 and maybe moves just as well as him. And he wouldn't be an athletic outlier. He would just be like maybe a little bit lighter guy or like an average guy in that sense. But the actual like player that he is would not be that different. Now, the question is, can Membou like get stronger and still move at this weight? Whereas like someone who's 310 might not be able to get stronger without adding weight that would then slow them down. So like, I understand the difference, but you see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Also, Will Campbell's RAS was higher than Mbow's, or Membou's.
Membou's, yeah. Yeah, exactly. And that has a lot to do with the size difference between the two of them. And if Will Campbell's arm length was shocking on the combine day, it measured longer at his pro day. So he was at 33 inches at his pro day. Membou was at 33 and a half at the combine. So who knows how different their arms actually are.
Yeah.
Who knows? So yeah, I just didn't understand that move up. And talking more about Membou, yeah, you're 100% right, Matt. There are serious play strength concerns with him. And you see it when he has to be the point of attack in wide zone and kind of blow up that end man on the line of scrimmage. A lot of times he's the one getting blown up there. Like everything kind of piles up behind him when he's supposed to widen it all because his arms are wide and a guy gets into his chest and he's a miniature tackle. Like, he's short and his arms are short. And so it's easy for guys to kind of big dog him, I think. And in college, there weren't that many people who could do it, but like, you definitely saw it with Shamar Stewart. Like, you definitely saw him do that a few times, and you definitely saw it even in the game against like Ezaraku and Boston College. Whatever game it was, I feel like you could see him kind of get stacked up and at the point of attack. And he makes up for it with his fundamentals being pretty good. Like, his overall balance is fantastic. And I think he just kind of like bounds backwards with the wide base and tons of knee bend. And he's got the natural leverage. So he's good enough at certain fundamentals to kind of overcome that. But I just am worried that NFL guys are just going to bull rush him at tackle. And with all that room to kind of build up speed, he's not going to be able to do that much about it.
moving him to guard.
Then that's what I think that. Like, I think that's fair to say.
I don't know. I think it's possible, but again, this is a case where it makes sense in the sense that he's shorter and he weighs a lot. But like, you need to be, if anything, stronger as a guard. I think no matter what, he's going to have to add strength. I like his move. Like, obviously, having a guy like him who can move well is important. And I'm not that low on him or anything. But again, I mean, this is a guy where if you because I typed in his name because I wanted to go look at his combine stuff. First thing I saw was Patriots at 4, some mock draft for him. If you're talking about that, like, I'm sorry, him moving the guard and being like passable there or acceptable there or even good really isn't what we're talking about. It's nice with a lot of these guys that you can try them at tackle and then move them to guard, but frankly, it's more of a concern. You don't say that about guys who are just definitely tackles. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. The other thing, kind of off topic, you said that Campbell has a higher RAS score. I'm going to be real with you. I have gotten so low on RAS score this offseason. It is just so freakishly favorable to small guys. Is it hand size or is it arm length that is like not even counted towards the formula?
It's arm length. It's both. It's both.
Yeah. Okay, well, if arm length isn't counted towards the formula and you have weight be one category and then size is like, or like, you know, speed is 3 and agility is multiple and leaping is like, it's just every single guy I see who has this, like, he's a 9.8 RAS score. You go check and he's 500 weight and then runs really well. And those guys are very athletic, but like, it's the same thing over and over and over. It's always the light guys who end up winning this. Like, I don't even know. Tez Johnson should be like, he should have a very low RAS score, but I'm pretty sure it's above 500, and that's just not true. He's not an above average athlete. It's 7? Mm-hmm. Tez Johnson isn't a 70th percentile NFL athlete, and I like Tez Johnson. I'm on Tez Johnson's side. But if you're getting that number out of RAS score, I just think it's like weighted improperly. You could give a 5x to weight in terms of like how you weight it, and it would probably still be undervalued. So I'm not sure that. I think you can still see Mbow as maybe a more athletic guy, although how much does grip strength play into that? And we could have a whole conversation about that. But yeah, I just wanted to go off on a tangent.
No, I think that's totally fair. It is weird though with Mbow to talk about like his play strength being as questionable as it is. But then he's this like super explosive, super strong athlete at the combine. 31 reps on the bench press. I mean, a 34-inch vertical weighing 330 pounds, running a 4.91 at 330 pounds. It's like, clearly you have the athletic tools to play at that level. Like we're talking about, he needs to add strength. I don't even know if he needs to add it. He just needs to like tap into it when he needs to. And maybe it's more of a, like an immediate strength. Like, I wonder if he has more of sustaining strength, more of like strength endurance than he does of like pure, like initial power in his punch.
I could see that. Do you guys want to move on to Josh Simmons?
Buckeye. Sure. You take it, Matt.
This is one of the really good Buckeye guys in this class, I think. This is one where it's like, okay, I think what people, and I'm not going to say what people miss on him, but what people maybe don't have the context of is that Simmons kind of came out of nowhere last year, playing as good as he did for the stretch that he did. And when he was healthy, he was one of the best players that Ohio State had. I mean, it was him. It was Caleb Downs, and it was Jeremiah Smith, and maybe Egbuka. But, I mean, Simmons in 300 snaps gave up 1 pressure, and the moment that he went down, I've probably said this before on the podcast, but, like, OSU imploded. It was a disaster. They fell apart, and then they just lost against Oregon after being able to control the game on the ground. They were completely shot after losing 1 guy. And it took him almost the entire season to figure it out. Eventually, Donovan Jackson got his legs under him a little bit more out at tackle. And part of that is also like Ohio State's offensive line depth was not great. But this is a guy who was a massive impact player as a tackle for a team that was already super stacked. And when you go and you look at his profile, it's really hard not to get excited. He is one of the best athletes in this class. And there's a lot of good athletes, but I think he's right up there with them. You'll hear everybody who talks about him say that he's a fluid mover, and that's not for no reason. He's one of these guys where not only can he get out to spots, and there's another guy in this class that we'll get to later who I feel the same way about, if not more, but he's not only fluid, but it just seems like easy for him to get out. It seems easy for him to move quickly. And he pairs that with an anchor that I think is very good as well. That combination right there just makes you really, really tough. It is definitely concerning that he's got a big injury. And I think it's hard to say that that doesn't move him down your board at least a little. But when you look at a guy who's got tools like he does, who produced like he did, who is such a good mover and can be used not only as, just like a great pass protector, but can be used to get out in space in the run game or with screens like he was a lot in Chip Kelly's offense. It's easy to be excited. And I also like how he can keep guys away from him and connect with his arms quickly and sort of stay in his own space. So there's a lot to like about him. He could very easily be, even with the injury, the best Buckeye in this draft.
Ooh. Better than Igbuka?
He's better than Igbuka. I mean, if he comes back if he never got injured, he would be in number 1 overall pick talks.
He is so, well, what kills me, okay, the injury hurt him in the sense that, like, he literally got hurt and, like, that's a negative on to have a major injury. It's a negative on your draft board. But the other issue is that, like, every single Ohio State player got this massive boost when they went on this crazy run to win the national title. Simmons should have been in those games playing even better, doing even, like, being, again, arguably one of the best players on the whole team. And he missed out on that PR and just the straight up reps on top of that because, again, he didn't really turn it on until this year. But that actually brings up one more thing that I really like about him. He got so much better. He improved so much. You're talking about a guy with crazy great tools who has showed massive improvement, who has all the prerequisites you want to play the position. He's got the injury, but if you feel like he's 100%, I don't know if you could take him too high.
Yeah, he is my offensive lineman 1, I think, with an asterisk because of the injury, of course.
Over Campbell?
Over Campbell. I mean, wow. He moves as well as anybody. I mean, the way he's able to kind of bend his ankles, like there was against Oregon before he got hurt, there's a blitzer that came down to blow up a screen, and he really had to adjust his path to catch this guy going downhill. And when he turned and started going downhill with the blitzer, like you could see his feet hit the ground and his ankles were just bending like crazy with each step, and he was gaining speed. I'm like, this is stuff you see with wide receivers. Meanwhile, he's bigger than the other presumptive tackle hopefuls in this class. He's just as fast as any of them. And after he bent downhill and he clipped that guy to free up his dude, he circled back around. He stayed on his feet and he got somebody else. So he did this. He whipped this U-turn after like already whipping a U-turn basically, and was able to hit 2 guys. And it's like, wow, that is really, really special stuff. I don't think even Campbell is moving that like that. Maybe Mbow could. I mean, that's the kind of athleticism that Membou has, is that run around like a skill position player type athleticism, which is very valuable. And Membou shouldn't be dismissed because of that. I just want to throw that in. But yeah, he's got it too.
Yeah.
And he's way bigger. And the power that he has just collapsing guys at the line of scrimmage, like he just kind of bounds forward or like kind of gallops with his legs, and he's just creating this really easy movement, treating these guys like they're blocking sleds. He's he's a monster. He is, I think, one of the stars of this class. If he comes back healthy, I think he's a real prize.
He does look to be really good. I think, Matt, you brought up the production. I think that's one of the most important things you can really look for in offensive linemen in a way that you don't really look for when scouting like other positions. But I think with offensive line, it's like if you can go out there and just dominate and just win rep after rep after rep, like just counting up wins, I think matters more for offensive line than it does for like receiver or quarterback.
I can definitely get down with that take that like what you do in college it's not the whole story, obviously, with any prospect, but like maybe for more than any other position, like if you're not winning at the college level, I mean, that's really bad as a tackle. More so than like if a guy gets 800 receiving yards, I can see how he could still be a great receiver. There's more to that, but like you really got to be on your stuff at the college level. Yeah. And Simmons this last year absolutely was.
It was, but it is important to note that he played at the beginning of the year before conference play really started. So he got a game against Iowa, which was dominant. And then he played most of the game versus Oregon, which I also thought was really good. But some of his pressure games are like against these true no.
That's very true. That's very, very true. But regardless, he's a demon, bro.
But you would expect him to dominate in those games, and he does. So,
yeah, he does. I actually think I was happier with his games against big teams than his games against the little teams, if that makes sense. Like against Iowa and Oregon, I was like, this is great. I love what I'm seeing. This should be carnage against, I can't remember the little team I watched him against. And it wasn't as great as I thought. Like he wasn't
probably
just
Marshall.
Yeah, maybe it was Marshall.
Well, like Marshall has
Mike Green.
But
Green
I feel like
he didn't get a lot of reps on Mike Green.
I felt like Green went off the other side.
I think we watched this one.
Yeah.
And he was against Frere. Yeah.
Green was on the other side.
Yeah,
and
like that highlight spin move that Green has is not against.
No. And the game I watched was even a different one, but he's not maybe somebody who is creating a ton of carnage with like knockdowns and torque outs and like this. He's not just this absolute mauler. But I think his punch is pretty adept. Like he can reset his hands. Like he always widens the pocket. He takes kind of these shallow sets and gets on these guys quickly. And he's working his hands real independently and just kind of jabbing them. And he keeps them at bay. Like there's really no pressure on the quarterback in any of the Josh Simmons reps this season. So I do wish he was a little bit more of a physical presence to be like a sure thing. But I mean, in this class, I really think his tape is as good as Abdul Carter, a physical menace when it comes to taking on blocks and working through contact. Not really. He's still going to go top 3 in the draft. Right. So I think that it's not a necessity to have that to be the top one of the top guys in this class, which Simmons is.
There are very few guys that I feel like are necessarily like true tackles or true guards. Simmons to me is a true tackle.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he also is. He's more of a zone guy in the run game too. I feel like if you don't have him where he's really moving, you're not using him the best of his ability.
His first step in outside zone is like generational. Like his cutoff. He has a cutoff against Iowa where he's up against a 3 technique and gets like essentially no help from the guard. Like buzzes right in front of him in about 2 steps. Like rips through him and seals him off, and the play doesn't end up cutting back. It doesn't matter in the long run, but I'm like, that block was absolutely nuts. Like, how on earth did you do that?
All right, so who's the first wide zone team on the board here?
Stanford, Ben Johnson, man. It's the Bears. This is why it was my.
Oh, okay.
I like that.
It was my take a while ago. Was if he's there, and left tackle is the last thing that they need. I would take him if I was Ben Johnson. I would take him, but I hope he falls to the Packers.
Do you think? You hope he falls to the Packers at
31? 23 mocks. I saw him just get mocked.
That's not impossible.
It's not impossible.
It's probably a little low, but like
and the low sample size this season, maybe teams.
I've seen him go as high as 4.
Well, that was me. I put him there.
I've seen other people other than you put him at 4.
Ooh, I thought that was
well, this is we could go down. 23 is right around the area in this draft class. Not saying the Packers will take one. It's right around in the area of this draft class where almost no matter who you say the Packers should take, it's like, no way, that guy's going to be there. It's impossible. You know, like if you said that about like Egbuka or something, it'd be like, is he going to be there?
No, Egbuka could be there. Egbuka could be there. I don't know.
I think there's a chance. I mean, how many? There's probably 3. There's 4 premium tackles, I would say, in terms of just consensus board. It's not impossible one of them makes it down there. It's probably unlikely, but I don't think he's like I don't think Simmons is like a surefire top 10 pick.
No, not
top 10.
And
not top 10.
Whoever put him 4, that is rare. I mean, I didn't even share that mock on Twitter or anything. I did think maybe a shocking pick could be the Patriots. The Patriots taking him at 4 would be like a shocking
crazy
pick
thing that happened that draft.
That I could see it happening.
You're so funny because you're just addicted to like making those picks and then posting it and get crushed for it. Like they do happen. I totally agree with where you come from on the mock drafts where it's like crazy stuff happens. Let's predict some crazy stuff. And nobody is on board with you when you post them on TikTok. Nobody is like, yeah, that is kind of
Nobody's
a fun
ever
scenario.
No one has whimsy when it comes to mock drafts.
Ever go that way.
There is a bunch of humorless MFs when it comes to mock drafts. They're just no one who wants to just let the mind wander. I've in this mock that I have not posted anywhere, but sent it to you guys. Actually, I posted it on Blue Sky, but I had Tyler Warren to the Lions, and that one would get me flayed.
I should next time you do that, I should screenshot and be like, look at this mock draft that Theo just sent in our group chat. What do we think, everybody?
What is
you should do that. In fact, that might take the heat off me. So please do that after the episode, so I don't have to post it. But
I did a mock draft live on TikTok, and I had Tampa trade up to 6 to take Mike Green.
That's great.
Exactly. It's like, what's the craziest thing I could do? And it was that.
Sometimes I think you cross the line of whimsical pick, and it's something and it goes to catastrophic. And I think trading up to 6 for Mike Green,
dude. I think I made like 20. I made like 20 trades in this mock because I had the Patriots trade up for Hunter, and then I had the Giants take Graham and then trade back up to 9 for Shador.
Yes, your mock killed me when I saw it on FanDuel. I'm like, this is a serious institution.
Dude. Hey man, they gave me. I literally asked them. I was like, how crazy am I allowed to get here? And they're like, you can do whatever you want. I'm like, okay, I'm holding you to
You
that.
were in creative mode on your FanDuel mock draft. The amount of trades was just cracking me up because there's an asterisk by every team that trades, and it's so hard to follow for like a social media graphic too. Like they just want a quick thing to like generate some buzz.
You just made like everyone trade like 3 times. You made it impossible.
No one's pick is there. Like teams are not even in the first round. Like,
I think the Saints just like lost their first round
out of it like from 9.
and then I'd like trade back in. It was crazy.
Maybe that is the whimsy. Maybe I wasn't seeing the whimsy and all that. So
the Chargers traded up for Egbuka at 14. The Bills traded up to 16 for Will Johnson.
That's not crazy. I don't think that's crazy either.
The Steelers traded up 1 spot to take Jackson Dart.
That might be unnecessary. Why would you like mock that? Like. Like, do you really think that's gonna happen?
Funny dude that relates for the FanDuel graphic. Yeah, he should have his trading up 1 spot. Well, what did you make the trade? Was it like a 5th round draft pick or?
I think I gave him like a 3rd.
I don't think all the details of the trade are even in this. It's just like you got.
No, they're not. But
Steelers fans are like, why would we do that?
No, and it's literally when I was live, I was like, I'm just doing this because I hate the Steelers and I want to do something to piss off Steelers fans.
This is who you're getting mad at when you get mad at mocks, by the way, for all you angry commenters out there.
Yes,
definitely.
Like there is
And there's definitely a lot of room for trolling on mock drafts. I mean, people just take it, especially now, a week out from the draft. Sorry, your team is going to trade up. Your team's going to overspend to trade up, buddy, and they're not going to get your favorite player, buddy.
Yeah. Who's another lineman? Do you want to talk about Kelvin Banks?
Yes, let's talk about Kelvin Banks Jr. Theo, I like when you mentioned that Will Campbell can kind of play a little high. He is a taller guy, plays tall. Kelvin Banks plays like in a squat. That is a guy who gets low and stays low the whole time. And that's where all of his power comes from, man. It's just in that stance, and he's got great footwork. I like Banks a lot. I know a lot of people seem very split on him. Banks, to me, like, I think he could be like another guy that you should give a chance at tackle. But if he ends up needing to play guard, I think he would be great at that too, just because of his athleticism, his stance. I think he's just got the profile to do whatever a team needs on the offensive line, other than maybe center.
Yeah, 100%. He doesn't seem as hard of a guard projection, like you said, because he's just a squatter, like more natural bender than Campbell is. And I love his feet. I think he's got such great power every time he steps into the ground. Like every foot that he moves back just has serious stopping power, and he can always kind of anchor up, even if he's in kind of a weird position, even if, maybe he's getting thrown around a little bit early, like he can just kind of come back to balance and power and just put an end to the rep seemingly whenever he wants, which I really like.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, he's obviously got the arm length concerns too, but he's a good athlete. Just, I guess every single tackle has the same scouting report this year on those basic terms, right? But I agree. I think this is a guy who's been highly regarded for a long time, and the production's been good. And while there is a concern there, I think overall you got to trust what's been thought for a long time rather than sit here and overthink it. Not to be like he needs to be your tackle one or anything, but I do think he's going to turn into a solid player. I will say Jalen Walker, I think, got him a couple times pretty bad when they faced off. Got him really bad with a push-pull.
Yeah.
And, it's like, is that something that's going to bother him, that type of move throughout like his NFL career? I don't think it's impossible. But I think I'm still higher on him than not.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, Matt, the production's there. Another 3-year starter. 27, almost 2,800 snaps played on offense. You said higher, Theo?
Just turn your mic up.
Oh, I can just get closer to it, but I can't turn my mic up anymore. This is as loud as I get.
All right. Anyway, go on.
No, that was just bringing up the production thing. Like, again, I think offensive linemen that can just go out there and start day one is really, really important. You want a guy that's been doing it for a while. And Banks and Simmons are those guys where I think they kind of project to be like easy starters at tackle because of how much they've played.
I don't know. I think that's the arm length thing with, like Matt said, the push-pull that Jalen Walker with. I see him get outreached more than I'd like to, and I think that he's got some stuff to clean up with his punch more than Campbell does, whether it be ducking his head and extending, kind of bending at the waist, and that gets him susceptible to the push-pull or getting knocked off balance. You don't want an Evan Neal type situation where a guy kind of just can get knocked off balance all the time. But I do think overall his ability to kind of recover and anchor down, and his punch is inconsistent. I'd say it's not consistently bad. So there's a lot to like with him, and I think with his strength and the balance, it's a good combination. And he's got some really serious finishes at the second level and the first too. Like he can really knock guys around off the line of scrimmage and blow open big holes. He can get pancakes at the second level, like just brutal, violent ones. So he's got the toughness, the tenacity to go along with some really cool pass protection reps, I think. So I'm a Banks fan at especially at guard. I really just I look at him play and I'm like, I think this guy's a guard.
I would try him at tackle first, but if you're a team that's like, we really need a guard, I wouldn't hate drafting Banks to be that.
No, but maybe you're right that you'd want him at tackle just to give him a chance to fail, and it's a more valuable position.
Because if he can go out there and play tackle, then it's like, okay, then he's like going to be really, really good there. But like if Seattle were to pick him at 18 to play guard, like, I don't think that would be a bad.
I'd want him more in a gap scheme than Seattle. Just a total side note. The power that he possesses in the run game is a lot more attractive to me than like his first step cutoff speed. I really think he can bash guys, but I think he is a bit slow off the ball compared to some of the other tackles in this class. He does not have the foot speed of Campbell, or definitely not Mbow, and definitely not Simmons. But in terms of raw displacement, I think he's got that in spades.
That's a good note. Yeah, that's the other thing is there's some guys in here we talked about that are better in zone, and some guys will be better in kind of that gap scheme. So that's a good note also. Where would you send him, Theo?
I don't know. I like Indy a little bit. They lost Fries, and I think once you get to 14, if you picked Banks, like he'd be really good protection for you. I really think that they should go offensive line early over everything else. Like to lose both those guys in free agency and just not replace them would be a really dicey proposition for me. And all the first round offensive linemen are more or less worth the hype, in my opinion. So I would really like to see them go tackle and move them to guard or whatever, whether it be Mbow or whether it be Banks or whether it be, and they run a lot of like QB power and stuff like that. I think he'd get a chance to flex his strength and run out ahead of Richardson and kill some people.
Indianapolis is a very tough draft or tough mock for me because it's like, I always lean towards like taking a weapon because I'm like, I want to just give Richardson more resources, but offensive line would kind of do like a similar effect. But I'm just like, I just want to give him like a super quarterback friendly receiver, or, you know, whether that's Igbuka or Loveland, just someone that can just get open super easily and catches everything. Like that's the kind of guy that I've been like eyeballing for them.
They got plenty of guys who can get open. Plus, the question's on the other end. Loveland would be interesting for them, or Warren. You know, if you had Loveland out there and you had Downs,
their tight end was really rough. Their tight end.
Yeah, and you had, you know, deep threats like they do. Like you could see how that really starts to round out.
It's deep down the class at tight end, though. I feel like offensive line is a better position to take early this year than wait, whereas like tight end, I think it's better to wait a little bit and go after the Mason Taylors and Arroyos and Fannons later.
I can agree with that. I don't think that's a crazy take at all. You guys want to talk about Josh Conerly Jr., who had the worst low light of anybody this entire draft cycle when he got bowled over by Mike Green at the Senior Bowl, which is not what you want to be doing. So when I saw that clip before I really like sat down to watch him, and I thought I was going to dislike him, but I didn't. I didn't dislike him. He is also a super smooth mover. It doesn't look very hard for him to get out to where he needs to get out to. Like I said, some guys, it's like they're big and they can really like get into it and do it. Some guys, I mean, like he's you know, not a huge guy for a tackle, but he doesn't have bad size. But it just seems like he's just gliding out there. I think he's also interesting in the sense of like how he uses his hands is a little different. It's almost like Joe Alt-esque, where it's like really sort of like just like placing them a lot of the time rather than like some like huge punch that he's giving. But I think it can get into the category where sometimes it's late a little bit rather than just always being like perfectly timed. However, I feel like he's better with his hands than not, and he can keep guys out of his frame. And and just overall plays really collected. Now, of course, there's the issue with power. I mean, he got bowled over by Mike Green, but I think for where he's rated, it's pretty fair. I would be interested to see if he can add some strength, and if he can, he could be a great player.
I've seen this guy projected all over the place. I've seen him as high as like tackle 2 for some people. Like some people really love him, and I've seen him as low as like offensive lineman.
Mike Tice had him as offensive lineman 1.
Really?
Which
oh yeah,
I thought was
I
an
did
interesting,
not see that.
which was an awesome hot take. Like,
that is a crazy hot take. But I've seen him as low as like offensive lineman 8.
Yeah, that's usually where he's at. That's usually where he's at. I think, and I think the reason for that is there's a lot of projection left with him. He is ascending. He's pretty young. I think he's only been starting 2 years. He was at Oregon for just 3. And I think as soon as you watch him, you see that his frame isn't fully filled out yet. He's skinnier and just less built than some of these other guys. So I think the adding strength portion of it is, there's a lot up for debate. I think maybe a coach like Tice is like, we'll get him in the weight room and we'll get him big and then it'll be perfect. And maybe draft analysts are just seeing what he is right now and saying, he's got serious anchor issues and he's kind of skinny. So that is where I think the differences lie, is some people are projecting with him and some people are just taking him as he is right now. And I don't know where I fall on that. I think I'm closer to just taking him where he is right now, and then we'll see. I think you're absolutely right, Matt, that his punch is kind of late, and he is kind of just patiently waiting for guys to hit him, and then kind of loops under.
It's somewhere. It's like a weird in between where it's like sometimes it's late, and sometimes you're like, oh, he's cool, calm, and collected. He's not rushing to get his, because he knows exactly where. And like sometimes he really gets it right. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. He definitely has reps where he gets it right and stabs at the right time and totally shuts the rep down. And you're hoping that those start to come all the time because he moves really well. His feet never stop moving, which I like. Like his foot fire, once he gets attached to you, just keeps going and going and going and going. And even though he doesn't like rock you with his initial power, like he'll eventually start to take the rep over, it feels like, which I enjoy. And he is the king at, the guy hits him in the chest because his punch is late, and then he like turns it into a rip move. He gets his hands on that guy's hips, flips his own hips, and runs them up the arc like time after time after time. It's very hard to win around his outside shoulder. He'll flip his hips, he'll get his hands on your hip, and he'll push you. And yeah, that happened a ton of times when I was watching him, just escorting guys up the field easily. And yeah, really, really good athlete, really good run defender, I think, with his foot fire, getting to the second level, obviously, and just sustaining blocks and pushing them. And yeah, I think later in the first round, if you need kind of a developmental tackle, he's a good option for the Rams or the Texans or some team like that, the Ravens maybe. They don't really need a tackle, but in that range, you know what I mean.
Yeah,
man. How do you guys feel about Gray Zabel?
He's got the worst punch issues of anyone that I've seen so far.
I feel like the biggest thing that people love is that he could play like all 5 offensive line positions.
Yeah, but the luster wears off when that's true of all the guys. Like you could get Mbow from Purdue, you could get Banks, you could get Campbell and Mbow. I mean, you talk about that with everybody. But yeah, he can play all 5 positions, so and center too. In fact, tackle is probably the one where you're like, I don't know.
I kind of think this is like, I don't know. I really question if the versatility, if for a guy who is, I mean, like what? I don't know what's his consensus ranking. Probably somewhere around borderline first round is fair to say, right?
I've seen him like
20, he goes in most first round.
25, yeah.
Okay, if you're 20 to 25, dude, like I do think like it's the same as the other guys, except it's almost like a step below. Okay, so he might not be a tackle, even if he can be out there sometimes or like in a pinch. So he's more of like a guard or center. Well, it's like, well, there's not a lot of centers who get drafted like 20 is very high for a center. I mean, how many centers have been drafted above 20 in recent memory? Linderbaum and that's about it. You got to be a special prospect. So I think the versatility is good, but that's more of like, and this is true for the tackles too, or it's more of like something that I want to hear about a second and a third rounder and why they're great, rather than like maybe somebody who I'm picking in the first round. I'd rather someone in the first round be really dominant at their position, because the goal is for him to start it wherever he's strongest if you're taking him that high.
Versatility and tweener get used and it means different things, like one is a positive connotation, one is a negative connotation. And I do think that Zabel does kind of fit into that mold a little bit. Like I said, the punch is a bit of a disaster. I think at times it's like watching a thumb play tackle. Like there's no weapons that he has. He just kind of widens everything and then kind of just muscles you. And he's got a really strong like chest and back. And he is able to kind of survive that initial bull a lot of the time. And his hands are strong. And he's got the reset power. So it's like he always loses initially and then comes in with a really strong win later. And that was good enough.
He forklifts like crazy.
Yeah.
He's one of the best in this class at that. But I totally agree. You don't necessarily have to lose the rep for you to get pushed back and shrink the pocket if you're playing on the inside and make it harder for your quarterback to set up. And that's not great.
And he's smaller too. Like he's not this big guy. So I'm worried about him in the league just getting, bulldozed. If he moves to guard, some strong defensive tackle is going to win that initial point of attack. Zabel doesn't have bad pad level at all, but there are guys at the NFL who will find a way to out leverage him, find a way to beat him at the punch, and then he's just not the biggest guy, so it could be a bit of a grisly scene. But he has got 99th percentile explosiveness. He had a 36.5-inch vertical at the combine. That's as good as Russell Westbrook, by the way, which kind of shocked me that Russell's was only 36.5. I thought it'd be kind of like a freakishly good vert guy. But yeah, he's crazy explosive. He can create easy displacement off the ball. He's also got a pretty heroic first step in like a wide zone scheme and can reach your guys. And like I said, he does have strong hands when they loop back around. It's just that initial point of contact is what's so bad with him. So with some coaching, could you think, well, we'd have a really special piece here, because he can anchor and drop his hips and get out quickly, and he just kind of stalks guys when he steps forward. Like I really like how accurate he is. Getting to the second level, it's like he's hunting instead of just like firing out and overshooting. Like he's actually like slowly kind of creeping up on you, but it's still fast because he's such a good athlete.
Colin Cowherd comp, Theo, do it.
I don't know what it is. He's like a puma if we're going with my animal comps. Like he just is creeping forward and there's just no real way to get around him because he's so under control. And that's my favorite trait about him in the run game, is how accurate and athletic he is getting to the second level. And I think he could be a serious weapon in the run game, but he's got to get his hands right. And it counts there too for some of these blocks.
If I wanted to draft a good run blocking guard, and I saw someone mock them to Baltimore recently, is Tyler Booker. That's who I would be happier with than Zabel.
Is a run blocker?
In like a gap scheme?
Yeah. I mean, unless he has to pull.
Maybe. But I would feel more comfortable with Booker than Zabel. I liked the Baltimore fit at least. I thought that was a good landing spot for him. But that's kind of who I would take. Like if there's 5 offensive linemen going in, or 6 offensive linemen going in the first, like it would be Campbell, Mbow, Simmons, Banks, Conerly, and Booker would probably be like my 6.
Booker, I couldn't quite get there with, because he's such a limited athlete. I mean, he famously did the 10-yard split, and that was all he did because it was the third slowest of all time or something like that at the combine. So he's like, I'm going to work to just get better at that. And then just ran 10 yards. Like, that is fudging the numbers to such a crazy degree. I know I've ranted about that probably twice already. And I just think in the run game, that becomes a pretty big negative. Like, you've got to either pull in gap scheme if you're a guard and kind of get out in space and get out ahead of the quarterback, which he could not do at Bama. Bill Milroe would always beat him to the spot. It was so annoying.
That does happen. Yeah.
So I didn't like that. And yeah, and in zone scheme, unless it's like really a downhill inside zone, he can't. He's got to be able to reach guys, and that's my concern with him. Is as a pure pass protector, I like him.
Yeah, I mean, he's great. He's just got so much power, and I'm like, I feel like if you could just get him to someone, I'm like, he's just gonna win.
Maybe like in Arizona, they've got a very like big dog power.
Like I almost want him in like just. I just want like inside trap runs, and that's it.
Yeah, and Baltimore's not a bad fit either. Like as a Falele replacement, it's not like Falele could get out of it. He's 500 pounds. So yeah, replacing him, he
well, Falele was a tackle move to guard, and like that was weird when it happened. But yeah, I think Booker would be better than Falele.
Yeah, I do like him as a pass protector, though. I mean, he's just somebody who's so big, and again, it's somebody who's not only winning a lot of the time, but isn't getting moved at all and is keeping the pocket very honest, and that's a big deal, I think. But I don't disagree. Him being a first round pick, although I kind of feel this about like a lot of the guys who aren't premium, and this probably just speaks more to the class as a whole because we've been saying this, but I have. I just don't know if there's quite 32 guys here. Maybe there is. I
don't have a first round grade on him. My first round grades stop at Banks.
Okay. Yeah, I think I can agree with that.
Like there's 4 first round graded offensive linemen for me, and then after that, it's like if there are guys to go in the first round, I would say probably Conerly and Booker. I've seen the Georgia guy Ratledge mocked in that range as well, kind of that late first, early second sometimes, but I've also seen him go as low as like early third. There's a lot of range there, but it seems like a lot of people like him in pass protection as well, and he's got some really nice power.
Only allowed 2 sacks his whole career. It's pretty good, and did it for a long time for a very serious big dog team at Georgia. I thought he had a lot of natural strength. That was the first thing that stuck out to me. He's the guy who can get a hold of you and twist you and put you on the ground pretty easily. And one thing I saw a lot of people describe him with is country strength. And I've decided that comes down to 2 things that make you country strong rather than just regular strong. I think country strong, first and foremost, is having great grip strength. I think that's really what, not that people have like a specific thing they're talking about. They're really just talking about a guy who is strong from the South, probably mostly. But I feel like whenever I'm like, this guy is a unique type of strong, it's that grip strength that really makes the difference. The other thing is that you're country strong if you have a mullet, I think. And he's got a mullet. So that really changes the game for him.
When I had a mullet, was I country strong?
Oh, yeah. We'd have to get one of those grip strength testers. We never tested your grip strength on one of the things. We can't know if Theo Ash is country strong or not until we do.
I think I am. I'm from the suburbs.
He's from the suburbs, and he's from the north. So
there are country strong people in Minnesota. They just don't.
Well, here's the thing: if you're from the Midwest, then you're Midwest strong, which is somehow different. Strong. I'm sure.
It's definitely different.
Dude, if you're a farmer guy from like North Dakota, like you're country strong.
I guess.
It's
North Dakota can be country strong.
And Minnesota and North Dakota are sadly not that different for a lot of the state.
Ratledge is old though.
That's okay.
Is it okay?
I mean, it depends on where you're drafting him. I mean, it would be better if he was young, I suppose, but I don't think it's the end of the world. I also think he moves pretty well. I mean, like his testing was great, and while his RAS score being like, I'm sure it's like a 9.8, partially has to do with like him being a little bit lighter. Like he's an average weight and then ran really well, and it's like, okay, well, he's probably not like actually a 98th percentile athlete. He's still very good, and I think he's very strong for his size. So, I'm a pretty big fan of him. Would I take him the first? I don't know, but he could have gone to the NFL last year. It was kind of surprising when he came back. So, I think his breakout, his experience, his overall power, he's got a lot of good stuff.
His RAS was a 9.96.
See, like he's not. I mean, that's basically saying like he's the most athletic guard ever. But
no, Matt asked. He was like what, a 9.8 or something, and it's a 9.
That's a 9.96. He's a very good athlete. Is he the most athletic guard in human history? Like probably not quite. You know?
Yeah,
I understand. What about Donovan Jackson? He is another Ohio State guy, played guard and tackle after Simmons got hurt last year. And he's got crazy long arms, is my main note on him. They look the longest of all time. Like he stands out there before the contact comes, like with both arms straight out. And I'm like, holy cow. And he really plays low too. So he looks...
Yes, he does.
His wingspan is like way longer than his height in those moments. I'm like, this just looks crazy. Like I would not want to rush against this guy who looks like his wingspan is 7 feet long, and he also is playing like 4 feet above the ground right now. It's kind of scary sometimes with him.
Yeah, the combine had him at 33.5, but they were measuring short at the combine, so I wonder if it's actually over 34, if maybe that's only so true. I mean, Donovan Jackson had a really impressive season from the standpoint of they needed him to find a way to go out and play tackle. They didn't have somebody who could go out and play left tackle. Their depth stunk. And it wasn't great at first, but by the time they got to the playoffs, he had figured it out to a pretty decent extent. And obviously they were able to go on and win the national title. I wonder if he's like quite a tackle at the NFL level. I mean, I just don't think he's quite quick enough. And I think that's part of the reason why he figured it out enough to make it work in college. And like he went up against some real prospects. But he's more of a guard to me. But, you know, if you said we have to, you know, there's a horrible injury and someone's got to move out to tackle, he's clearly proven that he's at least, you know, adaptable and can learn or whatever.
It would be,
he also moves.
If there were a horrible injury like week 4, I would be like, yeah, this guy could go out and play tackle and like figure it out for the rest of the season. But if there were a horrible injury in the playoffs, I think it would be like a disaster. Is kind of,
yeah, I can see what you're saying. And I think another one of his strengths is I feel like he moves pretty well in space as a run blocker when he's got to get to the second level. I think a lot of those Buckeye guys did this year when Chip Kelly called on them to do that. So I'm a pretty decent fan of his. I think he's worth like a second round pick.
Definitely in the second round. I totally am with you on the quickness at tackle, and he keeps guys at such bay with his arms, but he doesn't really grab them and clench them in, I feel like. And because there's that distance, sometimes you can really see him struggle to redirect and keep his hips in front of guys, even though he kind of stays connected with his arms. And I think that could be a bit of an issue with him. Just, the quickness, guys getting around him with some speed. And even with the power, just because no one can really reach him in college, I do wonder if he could struggle with that a little bit more in the NFL, how elite his base actually is. And I thought he was okay getting to the second level, but I didn't think he was like as good as Zabel, for example. The Puma stalking his prey, like always making contact. Jackson can get a bit too far over his skis and miss, although he does have the punch and the range to really connect with guys. And there are plenty of impressive plays with it too. So I thought he was a pretty average lineman is what it seemed like at the college level and also at the NFL level. Like, he's not going to make your team look dumb for picking him, right? He's not going to be getting cooked left and right because his fundamentals are good and his tools are good, I think. And, he didn't get beat much in college, even when he had to move, and like it's all pretty fine. And he can move guys off the ball. He's got some power. It's not like that's completely lacking. So yeah, I didn't hate it what I was watching, but I wasn't totally in love where it's like, oh, this is first round guard material 100%. But he did a really nice job picking up stunts, like anchoring down because of the low pads, beating people with the reach. There's a little bit of everything in there. So he'd be a solid pick, and maybe he's got a higher ceiling than I'm giving him credit for.
Yeah. Is there anyone else that you really want to talk about? There's Ursery from Minnesota.
I didn't catch him. I did watch.
I was hoping one of you guys did.
I did watch Mbow out of Purdue.
Yeah, that was the other guy that I saw actually. And then
What do you think about him, Matt?
I'm interested to see how he plays out. He's one of those guys where he moves well, but like you're paying the price in the power department for it, and how that translates to the NFL level is a question. Like he's just, I think, a kind of a pure project from that standpoint. Can you add more power without giving up anything in terms of his movement? That's kind of what my general thing was, but I think that puts him more in like late second, early third category for me.
Yeah, 100%. He is undersized, but he really does move like a tight end sometimes, like a skill position player. Like, he is an absolute menace getting to the second level. He scans and like uses his head and eyes so much. Like he'll be pulling and his head will be going left and right, and he's just looking for targets, and he can hit anything kind of at any time. Like, he is just such a free flowing. He reminds me of Fautanu a little bit from last year, the way he moves around, where it's like, this is just unique. And he'll do this thing in pass protection where he'll fake jumps at the guy. Like he'll run at him real quick, and then he'll back up into a vertical set. It's like, what? That's kind of a strange tactic. And I do think it's all kind of a front to prevent guys from being able to bull rush him properly, because if they did do that, they'd beat him because he is so small. But he's got kind of these weird athletic tools that kind of dissuade guys from doing that because of his hand fakes and his just overall flexibility and the way he scans and can get to things that are looping at him. So he's got all these kind of unique and interesting tools where it's like, maybe if he moved to guard where the reaches aren't quite as long, could he be more of a Chris Lindstrom type of weapon, like getting to the second level really fast, taking guys down, like becoming a really like unique hand fighter. Like all these things are kind of on the table for him. But as it stands at the moment, I think, yeah, the punch isn't always as clean as it should be. Like, he can get wide and give up his frame, and if he just does that again, it'll be carnage because he's so small. So he's really got to be on his P's and Q's like 100% all the time. And I just don't think he's that detailed currently. I think he needs some work, but he looked really good at the Senior Bowl, locking guys up. I thought he looked better than Zabel even, and Zabel was a big Senior Bowl like winner. But I thought Mbow looked just as good. So he is an interesting piece for me, but it might be, again, tweener. Like, where does he actually fit? Because he's getting bull rushed with the speed to power on the edge, but he's just too small for the guys inside. So where is it? Where's the spot?
Maybe he's a tight end strength.
Maybe a 300-pound tight end.
13 personnel. He's one of your guys. You play from 13 personnel all the time. He's like a jumbo set offensive lineman. and you're just pounding the rock with Mbow to beat the two high shells.
Teams do that.
It's working.
They'll line up in 13 personnel with an extra offensive lineman out there.
Pat Ricard him. He'd be a monster, Pat Ricard. That was my thought on him. I was like, this guy.
That's what they're going to do to Lampkin, man.
Willie Lampkin? I'm fine with it. That would be awesome. That would make sense to do it to Lampkin as well. But like, let's Ricard these guys and have them as a auxiliary blocking piece that's always on the field. Yeah. And then you draft Milrow. And then you draft
Milrow.
Yeah. And then you become the Ravens.
That's so real. Yeah. It's the only way, man. So now that we've finished up kind of all the position groups, I'm curious, what position group do you feel the most confident in as far as like your judgment of them? Like, which position group do you feel the most confident in, like in your scouting so far this off season?
That's a tough one. I don't know if I feel one way or the other about my confidence in a certain position group. What about you?
I feel the same way I do every year, which is wide receiver and corner. and
Fair enough.
Everything
Well, you
else,
played
I'm
receiver. That makes sense.
And everything else, I'm like I feel okay with, but those are the two that I always feel like I kind of have pretty good view on.
I feel like the edges being way different than how I've got them ranked would kind of shock me. Like Carter and Mikhail and Ezaraku is kind of my favorites, and then Scorton and like Jack Sawyer and James Pierce further down the list. Like I feel good about those takes. So I would say edge in this class is the guys I'm high on, the guys I'm low on.
I feel like your hit rate on edge rushers is pretty high.
Sure.
I'm just like off the top of my head. I don't know for sure, but
what makes you say that? Let's hear some nice things.
Let's hear some nice things about Theo Ash NFL. I don't know. I mean, like everyone liked Will Anderson, but I feel like you were out on you liked Nolan Smith, but you didn't like, who was the other really small edge in recent years? I don't know.
Will McDonald.
Yeah, Will.
I liked Will.
Did you like Will McDonald? I didn't remember.
He actually had like 10 sacks last year, didn't he?
He did. He did end up having
kind of fake 10 sacks, but they were 10 sacks.
No, there's no such thing.
There is such thing as a fake sack, and he had a few.
Woke take.
You still got to tackle the guy. You still got to bring him down, but sometimes they let you free, and it's play action, and you're rolling right at him. And sometimes that you didn't have to be.
That happened 10 times.
That happened maybe 8 times with Will McDonald, but it did. You got to be fast to track these quarterbacks down.
Real.
But yeah, I did like Nolan Smith a lot. That was a big time hit.
You did like Nolan Smith. Because that was one of the first like really small edge rushers. I mean, he wasn't the first, but like
he was
a lot of people
really
were out
small.
on him. Yeah, really small, really outlier.
My take, I think people still have forgotten how good Ashton Jeanty is. I know that that's kind of like a boring, like the really good guy is even really gooder, but I mean, this guy actually is like a generational prospect. There has not been a running back prospect this good since, I mean, like maybe Adrian Peterson. I mean, like it's been a long, long, long time. This guy is insane. And I think, like, if he's not a top 10 pick, nobody is. You know, there was multiple guys who were picked very highly recently who I think have ended up being perfectly fine players. And I just see some takes where it's like, honestly, I would rather have like Travion Henderson at 20 than Ashton Jeanty at 10 or something like that. And it's like, no way, dude. Like, or same with Omarion Hampton. It's like, this guy is so far and away in his own class. It's ridiculous, man. I mean, as prospects, him and Bijan isn't even a comparison. It's not even a challenge.
I agree.
Jeanty is way better than Bijan was as a prospect. And I like Bijan, and he's a great player, but it's not even remotely close. And if you took like positional value off the board, I mean, he'd be pick 1, you know? So
I don't know. I don't know if he'd be pick 1 over Travis.
I think it would be.
You think? The only take that I think is worse than like people undervaluing Genty is people saying that Travis Hunter is like wide receiver 6 and cornerback 3.
Yes, that take is pretty prevalent.
It's like
well,
it makes
he's
no
not the
sense.
best. Though.
What did you guys think about Hunter and Shador getting their numbers retired?
Did that happen? I did not see that.
Yeah, they both got their
It
numbers
didn't surprise me. I mean, it doesn't surprise me that they'd want to like deify this era.
Well, Travis Hunter, it's like he won the Heisman in a pretty spectacular way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Shador.
Weren't they like
his
7
dad
and
is
6
the
or
coach?
something?
Okay, I just
Yeah, that's a Mbow retired. I'm afraid.
he was a very, very good quarterback for them. But there's been a lot of quarterbacks who have played about his level, and there's plenty of dudes who don't have their number retired.
Did
So
they win a
That's
bowl
like
game?
retiring Will Howard's number.
It's worse. Did they even win a bowl game?
I think Sanders had a better career with Colorado than Howard had at OSU, outside of the fact that the team
Howard got a national championship, man. I don't know if you could do much better than that.
Well, come on, no. That's a quarterback wins.
No, I'm just saying, like, I'm just saying, for retiring a number, like,
Yeah,
I would rather
that's an
retire a
individual
national.
thing.
I would rather retire a national champion.
So you don't think Travis Hunter should have his?
Well, Travis is actually like that. Is the difference?
Yes,
You know.
like if
you don't get the. Well,
I'm saying
what
if
is
Shador,
you're doing.
if Shador were like that, they would have won like a lot more games.
I'm just saying it's the same. You can retire Will Howard's number just because he's the quarterback when the team got good. Like it's the same as retiring Shador's numbers when the team got.
It's like if the Gamecocks had retired Connor Shaw's number. That's a much more apt comparison.
Oh man, Connor Shaw
was a demon.
Cleveland Browns legend.
Shaw was he was a great quarterback. That is true. And Shador was a great quarterback for Colorado.
Yeah.
He was.
You might not love him as a prospect.
He's good.
He's a great college quarterback.
What is? Where
in the grand scheme of college quarterbacks? Yeah.
This is the thing. But here's the thing. I'm disagreeing with it. But I'm saying that Shador Sanders was a better college quarterback than Will Howard, and I think pretty.
I agree
pretty easily.
I don't know if I agree that he was a better college quarterback than Will Howard.
And look, Will Howard had a very good season for OSU, and his playoff run, he really stepped it up. But the Michigan game, he stunk and they lost because he stunk, right? And he got benched the year before he came to OSU.
Oh, did he? If his Kansas State career wasn't like that, then maybe
it wasn't like that. And also, he only played 1 year for OSU. Is the other thing. They did win the national title, but the argument for him being retired would just be quarterback on the winning team, and he was the quarterback. And I can't agree with that. I don't want to hate on Will Howard. Shout out to him.
But you already ranked Kyle McCord higher than him in the draft.
I guess Shador is the Colorado all-time passing leader in touchdowns. Maybe.
Yeah, he's got some. I don't think he's quite retirement good. I'm sorry. I think you got to win the Heisman as a quarterback. As a quarterback, if you didn't win the Heisman, maybe if he was second to Hunter, if they had been 1-2, that would have been tough. But. Yeah. If you're not a top quarterback, then you basically weren't the best quarterback in college football at any point. That's
right. That's the thing is he wasn't the best quarterback. The team wasn't that good.
They didn't quite win as much as maybe they should. Maybe if they got that Big 12 championship.
I don't know. I thought it was a successful tenure there, 100%. They were terrible before they came in. They surpassed my expectations. But definitely, retired number, you got to be fucking good to get a retired.
Here's the thing, Hall of Colorado Hall of Fame or whatever, a Circle of Honor. That's one thing.
That's one thing.
You can put them in there easy.
No one's
retire
wearing
the
ever
number.
Again. That's what I'm saying.
Crazy.
It's about he's very far away from retired number territory to me, very far. And
I don't even know. Just Cincinnati, I don't.
Plus, do you know how many college players are on a college roster? It's crazy to retire
literally 300.
There's
looking up the list
3 twos on the team. Probably.
I'm looking up the list of college players with their number retired, and the list is like, it's Unitas, Staubach, Marino, Favre, Aikman, Elway, Manning. Like, the list is
Favre's
pretty
retired in college. He's a second-round pick.
Southern Mississippi.
I guess probably, yeah. I guess for Southern Mississippi, probably that's a crazy number. That's probably true.
But like, it's a pretty ridiculous list.
Yeah, it's like not logical to retire a college number because like 2 players need each number. There are so many players on the roster. So Shedeur is as close to Will Howard is for OSU getting his number retired. I'm sorry. Like logistically, it doesn't make any sense to do it. So you better be at least Travis Hunter level.
Fresno State retired both Derek Carr and David Carr's number.
That doesn't surprise me. Derek Carr's numbers at Fresno State, we got to wrap the podcast up. But he did have 12,800 yards in 3 years, and he had 113 touchdowns in 3 years.
That's a lot of yards.
That is crazy.
And he also, his best accolade was finishing 8th in Heisman voting, just like Shedeur Sanders.
Okay.
So he
David at Fresno and Shedeur's a Carr, like his teammate literally won the Heisman. So like,
all right, everyone,
it's
go
not
research
as big of a deal.
2007 Fresno, or would have been 2000, like 99 Fresno State roster. See if they had a
Heisman candidate
catching passes there, because I don't know off the top of my head. But we will wrap up the podcast. We're at probably like an hour and a half right now. And I know all the viewers are like, no, you can keep going, because they always say you guys always go to an hour 30, hour 40, but never have the balls to go to 2 hours. And you're right. We don't. There's no reason for us to go that long ever. Or at least we haven't found one yet. But thank you all so much for tuning into this episode. We're getting ready for the draft. We'll probably do maybe another mock draft here pretty soon. Maybe, I don't know, something else. And then we'll definitely do something for the draft. So stay tuned for that. But until then, as always, from your favorite 3 fellas here at Stay Hot, we'll catch you on the flippity flop.